Scam emails and phishing attacks are on the rise every year, but if you want to protect yourself or someone you love, you can look for 5 warning signs in these emails. If you see one or more of them, that is a good indicator to not share information, not click on things, not answer these kinds of emails. My name's Erin Lebax. This is High Value Writing, where we analyze the writing that's out there, including writing being done in scam emails. So I'm going to share with you today 5 warning signs. If you see one or more of these in an email, it's time to be suspicious, right? Maybe get a second opinion, maybe delete the email. We're going to talk about all that. Let's get right into it with our first warning sign, which is the name, the sender, doesn't seem to make sense or match, right? Maybe you see the name represented one way and then another way within the same email. Maybe the name says that it comes from this company, but the email doesn't match that company. Maybe there are errors in the name. So first thing you want to look for, who is sending me this? Does all their information seem to match and go together and feel legitimate? So here's an example, real example, where it does not feel legitimate because 2 references to the same email just don't match. We look like we've received a message from a group called Applied Spectra. But if you click on the end of an email, the down arrow, and get the drop down with more information and options, you can see this is actually Fadi Medeller, a different name completely. So that would make me suspicious because I would think, oh, they said they were one person or group, but in reality, they're somebody else. If you see that, this is time to ask a question to someone, right? Or think, I need to study this email a little more before even considering answering it. Number 2, you'll often receive an email where the sense of urgency feels really high, and maybe it doesn't need to be that high. So if you open an email and you're immediately feeling a sense of panic, that's not the way typical emails work, but it is often the way scam emails work. You might see a claim, act now, act within 24 hours. What will happen if you don't might be on there. Extreme warnings, and even encouraging you, oh, you don't have to do these security steps, just do the thing we're asking for because you only have 24 hours or whatever it might be. Real live example we received here in High Value Writing, the total that we're going to be billed is $1,400. So right away I'm thinking, wait, did I buy something for that? But the email says this, if you have questions about your order, you can reach us at the contact details below. You can cancel the order within 24 hours. What that says to me is if I don't call this person up and cancel my order, I'm going to be charged $1,400. It's a trick, right? That's not going to happen. This is overly threatening. I never made this purchase in the first place. So feeling overly threatened, that's your second warning sign. All right, let's go on to the third one. Within the message itself, right? We've looked at the sender. Now we're looking at the message itself. The spelling and grammar are almost right. Sentences are kind of going along as they typically do, but when you look really closely, you'll see some things that don't fit. Maybe a name is used one way when it's written out, but differently in a link or the next time it's written out. Maybe they've tried to imitate a company with an M in it by putting an RN in a row, which kind of looks like an M, but isn't when you look more closely. Maybe they're not using whichever language they've written it in quite correctly, right? Small mistakes that can be an indicator that something is wrong. Couple of small mistakes here. We have a sentence opening in this example, and then the second one begins, we hope. Well, typically we would see a capital W, and that's been missed. If this were a huge email that a company had worked hard on, they probably would have caught that. Next one, we see has been renewed for next 1 year. A few things here. We typically would say for the next 1 year. We might also spell out that numeral 1 as O-N-E, and we would not have a reason to capitalize the Y in year. So these all make me think, oh, this person might not be who they're representing themselves as. All right, before we get to the fourth and fifth, I want to share an example of all 3 of the first ones, the first 3 warning signs in one single message. And here it is claiming to be PayPal. I'll read through and try to listen for the 3 warning signs we've been talking about. Your account will be automatically debited. To cancel, call support at a number with some numbers and also some O's, not zeros, those are O's, letters, immediately. Has canceled a money request, not really a full sentence. So we saw all 3 of what we've looked at. It was threatening right away. There were small errors that looked like they were right, but when you look more closely, it's an O, not a 0. And then we even have language not being used correctly, right? A full sentence has not been made here. So there's no way I'm going to listen to this message, right? I'm going to use my judgment that this is a fake. Okay, last 2 things to look for. If they are asking you for information they shouldn't be asking for, if you feel like, why is my date of birth needed for this transaction? Trust your gut, right? They probably don't need the information they ask for. This is the kind of information that you can often be asked for in these situations. Personal information, things you've protected behind a password, questions about your family, your history, your family members, your finances and taxes, of course, social security numbers. So an overview of what not to share, at least before you check again on this message, potentially ask a friend or family member for a second opinion. Do not share these things easily, right? Date of birth, social security, phone and address, your credit card information, any login or password information to a website you use, even if they are claiming that that's their company's website. There's usually no reason for something like a login or password to need to be shared. So here are a few examples of the language you might hear representing the idea really like this is a normal thing to ask for, but it isn't. Please provide your login. Why, right? Oh, we have X and Y, but we are still missing your social security number. In most cases, it isn't needed to make a purchase or something like that, right? To create your streaming account, we need your date of birth. Do you need that for streaming on my TV, right? So use your judgment here. That doesn't seem like a fair request. It doesn't seem relevant to the product or to whatever this email says it's about, right? That's when you want to be suspicious. And then lastly, if there are links or attachments included, be very, very careful. We don't want to typically click on a link or open an attachment from something that's a scam email. This can create all kinds of bad things to happen on our computer, as well as them getting our information. And so if the links or attachments aren't spelled the same as they said they would be, aren't titled the same way, there might be an issue, right? So don't click on links, don't open attachments if the link spelling doesn't match the way they've referred to the link. I'll show an example in a moment. The link doesn't match even what we were talking about. Why would we suddenly have a link about fruits and vegetables when we were talking about cars and trucks, right? The attachment titles don't match the way they've been described. Let's look at a few examples of what this might look like, and then I'm going to wrap it up with what we can do to protect ourselves when we see these 5 warning signs. Maybe in the text of an email, they've said, we would invite you to go to our website, Debt Consolidators USA, but when you look more closely, the actual link has US, not USA, and consolidation, not consolidators. That is enough to give you that warning. These people may not be who they say they are. Or same thing with an attachment. Maybe inside the email they say, please open this attachment to see the process we use. It's a flow chart or something like that. But you look at the attachment and the title of that attachment is Notice 1. Something having nothing to do with what it's supposed to be about. Don't click on that attachment, right? That can lead to other things happening on your computer or with your information. So what to do instead? If I see 1 or more of these, I'm typically just deleting that email altogether. But if you're not sure, still don't click on things. What you can do instead is contact someone you trust and get a second opinion and say, look, I found these 2 warning signs in this email. What do you think? But until you get that confirmed or until you decide for sure that you're deleting this, that it is a scam, avoid sharing any information, avoid any clicking that can trigger any kind of action until you know for sure. So when in doubt, make sure you reach out and get that second opinion. If you've experienced scams that use other techniques, please share them in the comments. We would love to crowdsource this information and protect all of us. So please share what's happened to you. What are some other ways that you analyze the writing of an email to make sure you can trust it and that it isn't a scam? All right, thank you for watching. Best wishes to you, your family and friends, and your circle in staying safe financially. Have a great day.